Hello, everyone. This is Jack Narvel. Welcome to Tent Peg TV, connecting you to your local Christian community. And with me today, I have Scott Peyseur, who's the director of Ground Zero Ministries. How are you doing this evening?
Good.
Good. Can you tell us something about Ground Zero, please, Scott?
We're a ministry that we're not connected to one specific church or denomination, but our heart's to come alongside the local church to do what we can to reach middle school and high school, the teenage years, students and introduce them to Christ.
What is your vision long term for Ground Zero in Myrtle Beach?
Well, there are a number of different things that we're doing now, and a lot of things that we'd like to do. A lot of what we're doing now is being able to see a lot of the vision finally, after 15 years, begin taking root.
Yeah.
So we want to see those strengthened for sure. I mean, the events that we do, the speakers that we bring in, the bands that we bring in, the way that we work with the community, and of course a building that we're renovating, we want to see that up and running. But beyond that, a lot of what we're really doing now is working on creating a model that can be duplicated in other communities around the country, so that this can become a home base, so to speak, that not only is able to minister here, but as a model and a training grounds that we can use for other communities.
Okay, great. Now, speaking of the building, you had a real miracle story with regard to getting the old Rivoli Theatre. What happened there?
Well, it was the vision of a building has been a vision of mine for 30 years this year, so a place for teenagers to kind of hang out has always been the driving vision for it. There have been a few times in my ministry that I've had the opportunity to experiment on a smaller scale, building with this type with the facility type ministry.
Okay.
But we've never, as Ground Zero, we've never had the facility, although
Right.
that was kind of the starting driving force to the ministry. Early on, I will say this, early on in the ministry, our decision for that, although the facility was a driving force for it, we made a decision to say, you know what, let's not build a building and hope a ministry comes out of it. Let's take time to build the ministry and then let a building come out of that. And so we've really taken a lot of time to focus on what's that foundation piece that needs to be in place before you can have a successful facility, Christian music venue type outreach on top of that foundation.
Wow, yeah.
So we kind of switched it up a little bit. But the situation with the theater was when we were actually looking at a number of buildings. Matter of fact, we actually had a lease on a building here in Myrtle Beach. Started doing some renovation. That was when the economy was really struggling at the beginning of that, and so
In 2008 time
2008 exactly. And so we ended up letting the buildings go back to the owners, and took some time off to just pray and work through some things. We were still new in Myrtle Beach at that time too, so we didn't have a strong base.
Yeah.
But that was in the downtown area. And what we did find through using that facility that we were beginning to work on, was that there were a lot of challenges with the downtown and the perception from people about downtown.
Yes.
And so looking back on it, I think God really used those other buildings to educate us on downtown.
Yeah.
And although we let those buildings go, we took some time off. We started looking for other buildings from one end of Myrtle Beach, North Myrtle Beach, the south end of Myrtle Beach, and all points in between. We ended up back downtown through a number of different God scenarios, beginning with my son, who was an elementary school student at that time.
Yeah.
But then we made an email. Matter of fact, I just sent an email. We were looking at, somebody had mentioned in our office about the old Rivoli Theatre, and we thought, well, why don't we look at that building? And I had been told it was kind of off limits because the city had purchased it for a project they were going to do.
They're going to make it into an arts center.
There was going to be like a
that.
downtown performing arts theater type thing, which was really cool. So that's one reason we had never looked at it. We had inquired about it, but that was the response that we got. We had never looked in the building. I had never been in the building. And we were actually just kind of joking around in the office one morning. So I said, I'm going to shoot an email to somebody that I know at the city. We did. Within a matter of a few minutes, I got an email back saying if y'all would like to look at it, we can have somebody meet you down there around
Really?
lunchtime. So we met them down there, a city official down there around lunchtime. We walked in, and my wife has been very supportive of this vision and has hung in there through thick and thin. And she understands the impact that a facility ministry can bring, but she's never gotten excited about a building.
Yes.
She's gotten excited about the vision. But when we walked, she was with us that day, and when we walked in, she was in tears.
Wow.
And all of us were just amazed. Now, it was a mess, but we were looking beyond the mess to see what it could become. So we went back to the office and made a phone call and said, what do you mean you'll work with us? What's it going to take to make this happen? And they said, we could, if you get everything together and present it to City Council, we could probably entertain a multi-year lease for $1 a year. And
they came up with that number right away.
Yep. And so
great.
We we jumped on it, and a little less than 3 months later, we were signing the lease and getting in there.
What demographic are you looking to reach? Youth at risk or homeless kids, or is there any particular group you're looking for?
No particular group. I mean, as a youth pastor and carrying out this model in some smaller ways, even in Tennessee, I never had, fortunately, I don't have a testimony of I was strung out on drugs or all of these types of things. I mean, I've definitely had my challenges, but God's really protected me from a lot of that. But in my youth ministry career, for some reason, I've always had the opportunity to really reach those kids that aren't connected to the church. Not necessarily a specific demographic as far as, the homeless kids or the kids that are at risk or something like that, but probably the bigger area is I work well with the kids in church. It's not that they don't like me and I don't like them, but my vision really catches the attention, and typically my ministry model that God has given me has always given me the opportunity to really reach those kids that they may have some connection to church, but they're not really committed to church, maybe not committed to Christ. Maybe there's a strong interest, but they just haven't connected with someone that took interest in them, or they took interest in that individual. So a lot of my heart has been to see those kids that are they're not necessarily completely lost, but they're just a large group of students that are really
some
struggling.
Some of the events that you've had so far, you had Sean McDowell speak at one, and you had Mike Huckabee speak at one, and you also had Christian rock bands playing, but they're playing Christian music. So you're attracting some of the Christian kids that already go to church and that type of thing. But how do you attract how shall we say, secular kids to come?
Well, I mean, it's not easy. I think that's one of the reasons we stepped back when we started the ministry and said, well, let's not just jump into this building thing and kind of the build it and they will come mentality. It's more of we've got to build a grassroots structure here, because really a lot of our grassroots structure includes the local church, because the students that are in the churches have the connections to the students that are outside the churches.
There you go. Okay.
And so a lot of our strategy includes being very connected to middle school and high school campuses. We do school assemblies. So some of the speakers that we bring in, or maybe it's some of the extreme sports guys or illusionists or different things like that. They're all Christians. Now, they can't take a Christian message to the campus, but they can speak on things like character, bullying, wise choices, and things like that. So what we do is we offer them free of charge to the schools. So it's through our network with the schools, it's through our network with the local churches, the youth pastors that bring their students to the events. So that's really the base that we've built. We don't really have the marketing budget to really build a strong secular marketing plan. Not that we don't want to get there someday. But right now we're really using that network of the Christian community to help get the word out. Again, because the students that we are connected to through their youth group or the youth pastors, they're connected to all the other students.
Awesome. Okay, real good. Well, what type of ongoing events are you planning for the theater now that you've got your own theater and you don't have to use one of the church auditoriums to put things on? Well, there are a lot of ideas that we have, a lot of different events we have done, a lot
successful, some not so successful.
Mm-hmm.
So we have an opportunity to really evaluate the things that have worked. What we haven't had a chance to do is we haven't had a chance to do those events consistently week to week.
Yeah.
So I think that's the area that we're going to be playing around with. We've got some good organizations in the Myrtle Beach area, Boys and Girls Clubs, YMCA, different types of things like that.
Yeah.
We're not trying to duplicate that type of thing. We're not going to be a recreational facility. We're not necessarily open to do tutoring, after school programming or anything like that.
Okay.
We're a little bit more of a music or an entertainment venue.
Okay.
So it's more of the draw of, hey, there is going to be an incredible band here. And a lot of students may come and not even know that it's a Christian band. Not because of the content,
Yes.
but they're just, maybe it's the style of music, or
That's
maybe
right.
the way they're dressed. Again, we're not compromising God's word,
Yes.
but the presentation may be in a way that's more appealing to students, whether they're Christians or non-Christians. So because we can't have a concert every night, the use of the facility is where we're going to have to play. Doesn't mean that we wouldn't have some type of programming going on, maybe some small group things and during the week or some different things like that. We do have a coffee bar that's in the front, so a lot of the ideas that we're going to have the coffee bar open every day, even to the business community. So we want to figure out ways to use the building on a more frequent basis, but we know right now that our strength in events is not something we can do every day. So right now we're looking at the potential of, once we get open, having seasons that we're open, and during those seasons we'd be open on Saturday nights as an outreach to teenagers.
Okay. Who does the coordination of the concerts that were in the vacant lot at the beach last year? Were you involved
The
in
ocean
that?
front?
Yeah.
We were we coordinated those, booked those, and ran those. Hampton Inn and Suites was really the backer behind that. So we have a great partnership with the Hampton Inn and Suites Oceanfront, the one here on the ocean, and so with them being the backers, we were able to work with Downtown Ministries. David Hawkins is a great guy that we've worked with, and then we coordinated with the volunteers and the booking agents and the logistics of pulling those off on Sunday night.
Has been of help to you as well, is that right?
The Park Foundation with NASCAR Speed Park. They've had Myrtle Waves and Myrtle Waves NASCAR Speed Park. The Park Management Park Foundation had helped be a part of some of the things we did during the school year, especially for youth pastors, because that's another type of event we do. Okay,
so you're reaching out to kids, you're reaching out to youth pastors to help train them, give them some new ideas of how to reach youth. What's success for you, Scott? What is it? Changed lives? Is it how many people raise their hand and say, "I'm coming to the Lord this week"?
Oh yeah, I mean, probably all of it. I mean, definitely changed lives, and definitely the hands represent something that God's doing in their life. We hope it doesn't end there, because we don't know. Ultimately, it's between them and God. But for me, we want to see students coming. We want to see Christian students growing in their faith because of the things that we're doing, even if it's just quality Christian entertainment. Because a lot of times, entertainment media is the number one influence, depending on what statistic you look at, in the lives of teenagers nowadays, whether
Yes,
it's the
that's
movies
right.
they watch, the games they play, the music they listen to.
Mhm.
And so a lot of our outreach is media driven.
Yes.
It's the fact that we want them to see some good quality entertainment so that in their free time
Mhm.
they don't get pulled astray.
Yeah.
And so we want to see those Christian students encouraged just because they had some good entertainment to listen to. And but at the same time, it's not just about the youth pastors, but being a youth pastor for 30 years now,
Mhm.
my heart's for youth pastors.
Right.
It's not just about the youth, but we want to encourage those who are ministering to the youth, kind of
Yeah.
a minister to the ministers.
Okay.
And so, we do some training, and some of the events we do are just to encourage them, just to say, hey,
Okay.
we appreciate what you do,
Yeah.
and we're here for you. And there are a
Yeah.
lot of one-on-one meetings that we do, because a
Good.
lot of these youth pastors are just really
Mhm.
struggling.
Yeah.
And not just in Myrtle Beach, everywhere.
Yes,
It's tough.
that's right. So once they go to an entertainment event at Ground Zero,
Mhm.
and they come out of that, then what kind of discipleship would you expect to see? Is that going to be done by who?
Well, that's tricky because we respect the church so much. We want to be
Mhm.
careful to not attempt in any way to replace the church.
Right.
But that's another piece of the puzzle of being connected to youth pastors. Our ultimate goal is to get those youth pastors so connected to what we're doing
Yes.
that we're able to introduce, okay, this student just made a decision
Yes.
Sunday night to this
Wow.
youth pastor who
Yeah.
is the youth pastor at a church, and be able to encourage that connection.
Yeah.
Again, and even if we do some small group stuff at the venue,
Mhm.
hopefully the plan is that we'll have youth pastors involved in that.
Yes.
So that it's not necessarily us carrying out the small group stuff, but the youth pastors having an opportunity to reach students that wouldn't necessarily be in their church.
Yeah,
It's an
okay.
opportunity for them to go outside their church walls too.
So you're going to be opening officially in October?
That's the plan. We have right now.
Mhm.
We have the funds to complete the building, and everything should be completed
Wonderful.
by the end of the summer. The only thing we're still lacking is some funding to finish out our production equipment. But as far as the construction and the furnishings, minus the production equipment for the main room,
Okay.
we have been blessed to have all of that in place,
Yeah.
and right now we're on track to do that.
So aside from maybe some people that could help you, well, the construction's all done, so you really don't need construction volunteers anymore.
Right.
So you just need people who are dedicated to reaching youth that might want to donate some money. What else?
Well, money's always a factor. I mean, even
That's
once
right.
the construction's over with, I
Yes.
mean, just the rent's $1 a year, but the power bill's not $1
Oh,
a year.
yeah.
So there are definitely utilities and things like that. We're going to really be working this year on building our donor base, whether it's through major gifts or
Mhm.
annual gifts or monthly donors. But volunteers, your time's huge.
Yeah, sure.
Because a lot of what we want to do is we want to be training and equipping people
Yes.
in the community to be the ones that are hanging out on Friday or Saturday nights with the students when it's
Right,
open. To be
right.
able to let them run the coffee bar, let them run the production, let
Oh,
them
great.
do a lot of the different things, so that we aren't increasing our budget to pay people to do that,
Right.
but we're training God's people, including students,
Yes.
to serve in a number of
For
these
being
roles.
with us. And you have anything else that we might have missed that you'd care to say to folks that are watching?
No, I mean, just what an awesome opportunity this is to be here and kind of get the word out about it, and continue to pray for us. This is an incredible opportunity to see how God's working through His people in the Myrtle Beach area. It's not about specifically Ground Zero, or definitely not about myself, but it's a true indication of what happens when God's people come together, and that's been a part of our prayer.
Yeah.
Is that the process of opening this building
Yes.
within itself would be a testimony to who
Yes,
God is.
that's right. He
Yeah.
is an awesome God. Well, Scott, thank you so much for being with us. Scott Peyseur, Director of Ground Zero, and Jack Narvel saying thanks for watching Tent Peg TV, connecting you to your local Christian community.